Here we are now at the end of Chapter 3 in the last unit on disclosures, and it's a reasonably short unit, so we are almost done with this chapter. The required disclosures that we're going to need to make sure that we let our clients know about are disclosure of financial condition. We must make available to any customer, any client, upon their request, information relevant to the member's financial condition, generally by disclosing the most recent balance sheet. We must have the disclosure of investment policies. That's the objectives. Investment companies, primarily mutual funds and what we deal with, must publish their investment objectives, how they're going to invest the money. Are they going to be investing it for growth? Are they investing it for income? Are they in big companies? Are they in small companies? Are they risky? Are they not risky? You can only change that investment policy, that investment objective, by a vote of the shareholders. Because if you're investing in my company that I'm telling you I'm going to be buying common stock in because you want growth, and all of a sudden I'm then going to change it to income and start buying bonds? No, you invested in something for common stock and growth. You should get a vote and a say if I'm going to change it. Disclosure of fees. Investment companies must disclose standardized performance information, the maximum sales charges, and the total annual funds operating expenses. The investment advisors, that's under the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, must disclose their fees, the amounts, and any prepayment requirement. They might be where if I'm taking on you as a client, as an investment advisor, I may charge you $1,000 up front for the next 6 months of services. And then after 6 months, you're going to pay me $1,000 for the next. You're prepaying. You're not after-paying or post-paying. It also must be in writing with an investment advisor. We have the disclosure of fiduciary responsibility. The fiduciary duty is an obligation of loyalty and good faith to someone or some entity. It is the highest duty known to the law. Investment advisors have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients. Full disclosure of all conflicts of interest must be disclosed. Basically, if there's a question that's talking about some potential conflict, I'm recommending this investment. It just so happens my wife is on the board of that company. If there's an answer of disclose it, generally that's likely to be the answer. As long as you disclose the problem, that generally cures any issue. I'm recommending this company, and every time this company sells a share, I get $10. As long as I tell you that, and you still want to buy the company because you think it's good, and if everything else I tell you, does it really matter if I get $10 when it sells? Is that the reason I'm recommending it? If it is, that's a problem. But if I'm recommending it because it's a good thing, I just happen to have investments in there, I might have to disclose them. Proxies and proxy voting. That's voting in absence. By giving their voting power to a representative, to someone else, they're giving their proxy, or who is standing in proxy of them. Mutual fund shareholders have voting rights on the assets in the portfolio. They have voting rights on all securities held within the portfolio. They own an undivided interest. They have those shares. They generally vote on them by proxy, if at all. Many people don't bother voting. In a lot of cases, I think there's a box that basically says, do whatever the board of the mutual fund thinks. I give my vote to the board, and I know in my case, I look at it as I'm not going to go and do the research on 70 companies to figure out what the voting issues are and how I want to vote when I've got like 40 shares or 50 shares equivalent in these companies with what my investment is. Like, it's not worth it. I trusted this board of directors. I trusted this mutual fund with my money. I trust them to make the decision that's best for it too. So in a lot of times, the proxy is given to the board, basically the board of directors of the fund to cast. Privacy requirements. This is under Regulation SP. I don't know what SP stands for. Non-public personal information. Personally identifiable financial information, or any list, description, grouping that is derived using personally identifiable financial information, is something we need to protect. It's not going to include public information or lists of public information. The confidentiality, we get into possession of some very confidential information, certainly social security numbers, but also bank accounts and things like that. We handle checks. We must describe in general terms who is authorized to have access to this non-public personal information at the firm, and state whether we have security practices and procedures in place to ensure the confidentiality of this information, that it stays confidential and doesn't get leaked when we have the privacy policy. Privacy notification, we must notify the client at time account is opened, and we must notify them annually. But that annual notification might bother some people. They understand what we're doing, so they can opt out. It must be an easy way to opt out. Send an email, send a letter, things like that. Easy ways of opting out. The safeguard requirements, the need info, I have a little bit below. There really was nothing here. This is unfortunately something that in the next update will be deleted. We don't really need to know that. The safeguard requirements, we can't let it leak. We've got to have security procedures. The information is going to be encrypted. Everything's got to be accessible but still protected. Limited number of people. Things like that. The standard safeguard requirement idea. Trustees and custodians. These are the fiduciaries. These are the ones with responsibility to act in the best interests as stated in the documents of a trust or similar entity. They are a fiduciary. They must act in the best interests of the stated purpose of the trust or other entity in which they have the fiduciary responsibility. It's not necessarily a given owner or beneficiary. Custodians are generally in like UGMA accounts. Trustees are in trusts. You also have basically executors or executrixes of estates. Just so that you know, the difference between an executor and an executrix is the exact same difference between a waiter and a waitress. I don't know why executor needed to be male and female with executrix, but that's the only difference. An executor is a male, an executrix is female with the exact same job description and responsibilities. Custodians are generally trusts of an account for a minor, and trustees are generally more legally assigned. Custodians more chosen, not necessarily always. And again, executor again is usually chosen in a will, but sometimes is assigned by the state. One last cartoon in this chapter. Investments in retirement planning again. Many people like to start a new hobby when they retire. Hunting and gathering might be a good choice for you. That brings us to the end not only of this unit, but of this chapter. You want to spend some time making sure you review this chapter. There's a bunch of areas that are definitely going to be talked about, that are going to be tested, and you want to review them. We are trying to be associated persons. We do need to understand what they are. We do need to understand about clients and customers and all the other people that we're dealing with. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.